Welcome to another episode of the Grow podcast. My co-host is not here today, Jennifer Jones. She had things she had to do, but I have two people that I have a lot of respect for. It's Father's Day, and so on this episode, we are going to be talking about fatherhood and just some challenges around fatherhood. So I have two people that, in my opinion, I see them as mentors, as like big brothers, people that I have been privileged to work with and learn a lot from, or maybe a lot from you, but I'm not sure if I've learned a lot from Hey guys, I have Brian and Alan. Guys, welcome to the Grow podcast.
Good to be here. You. Right out of the gate.
No, it's just been a blessing and a privilege to know these guys and to be able to call you friends. And the thing about you guys is a few times I've had to ask questions, but just by knowing you and seeing you live your lives, I have been able to learn and just get better with myself as a person and my relationship with my wife, my marriage, and it's just been an absolute blessing.
Awesome.
Because I'm fresh at this game. I'm still a young man. I'm still a young man. No, I mean
comparatively,
compared to how much experience you both have. I'm still like bowing down to the both of you. So it's how you doing, man? How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Doing well.
You want to introduce yourselves? Like, I'm pretty sure your wives would watch, so you want to give a shout out just to avoid any troubles. Let's play it safe. Who wants to go first?
I'll let you go that way.
I'm Alan Leger. Been married to my wife, beautiful wife Cheryl, for the last 32 years.
Wow.
And we raised 5 children. And we were a blended family. When we got married, I had 3, she had 2. So we've been through those challenges and very unique challenges, difficulty. But God's grace is sufficient. Was it easy? No. Was it always fun? No. We did have had some wonderful times, and now they're all grown and out of the house, and doing well.
Yeah.
So. My name is Brian McMurtry.
You want to come close to the mic as much as you can? Yeah.
All right. How about this?
Yeah.
That work?
Yep.
That work.
Push it to you. That's fine.
Yeah. I have been married to Jolinda for 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th. We've got 2 amazing children. We've got my oldest is married. He's got an amazing family. Has given us a grandbaby. So got that going on. So that is, but we have, no blended, but even in what standards would say are perfect situations, we've always found our way to have our challenges. Yeah. But amazing what God has blessed us with.
Yeah. It's why I said I'm the baby here. 32 years, 25 years. And we've been married, will be 3 years. 4 years. It'll be 4 years next March. So.
Well, let me mention too. I have 13 grandchildren. I'm going to get in trouble if I don't say that.
Wow. Well, it's just been a blessing to know you guys and to work with you guys. And we're going to talk about fatherhood, but I also want to just touch on, because what we do on the Grow podcast, you guys know, is our goal is to be able to inspire people with other people's growth stories. Like I always say, it's easy to see success on the surface, but what we don't see is the journey. Yeah, the journey leading up to that success. And so I know that you talked about you having a blended family, and you were married and you lost your first wife to
brain cancer.
Yeah, to brain cancer. You just want to. That's not the focus for the episode, but I always like to touch on things like that, and the reason I like to do that is to many people are inspired by you.
Amen.
But I don't think, he's one of them. But I don't think many people have an idea some of the things you probably have faced and gone through. You know, I want to be like Alan. Okay, would you want to go through some of what he's been through? No. Can I just be like him? You know, so do you, and you don't have to talk about the details of it because that's not but how did you go through that phase?
Yeah.
And how did you come out of it? Yeah.
Glad to share that. It's really, being male, since we're compartmentalized, I have a box. And have a box of my first wife's death that stays packed away pretty much of the time. However, I pull it out every now and then and think about that. She was 32 years old. I was 34. And she had a parietal lobe brain tumor. And she was diagnosed in May. And in the middle of July, she was dead. We went to all the specialists, went through the whole deal, went up to Mayo Clinic and was treated by, at that time, supposedly America's best neurosurgeon. And they tried to do surgery on her, couldn't do anything for her, really. Came back here, had radiation therapy, and she lasted about 2 months, I guess. So as a Christian man, so the question is, why? God, why did you allow this to happen? Because we were believing and praying, obviously, God, charismatic, full gospel message. And fully expected her to recover, actually. And, I had 3 little kids who at that time were 10, 8, and 6. And, what do you tell those kids? And so, it was a very difficult time. And then the day that she died, I just couldn't believe it. I was devastated. But, it's Brian and I've been associated with a ministry called Christian Men's Network out of Dallas, and Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole, who started that ministry years ago, was a guy who was a great mentor in my life. And I remember when Donna died that day, that evening, when I got home from the hospital, one of his guys, the phone was ringing when I got home. Answered the phone. Yeah. This is Bruce Brinkley from CMN, Alan. I heard Donna died. I don't even know how she knew she died. Yeah. And so he said, let me just pray for you. I mean, they prayed heaven on me. It was just a super source of strength. And then after that, you go through a very difficult time. After, we had a funeral here in Oklahoma. We had a funeral in Louisiana. 2 funerals, which is tough. And then, even God's so faithful. Even in Baton Rouge, when I had the funeral there on a Tuesday morning, Wednesday night, I went to church the next day. And every time she and I had anything significant happen in our marriage, we always bought her a new pair of shoes. I don't know where that came from. Something we did. So Wednesday, I go to the mall, and I buy me a new pair of shoes. And then I go to church that Wednesday night. I'm sitting in our home church where we got married. Larry Stockstill is pastoring. And he starts the Wednesday night service, and he gets about 5 minutes service, and he stops. And he said, somebody here tonight is suffering tremendous grief, and the Lord wants to minister to you.
And he wasn't aware of that.
He wasn't aware. No. I walked down to the front. He recognized me because we'd been married in that church, and then after he saw me, he realized he'd seen in the newspaper that Donna had died, and so they prayed heaven on me. I mean, it was just an incredible experience that God healing began to take place. Yeah. And so when I came home, and then when you're alone, it's a whole different story when you're by yourself. And I got, I couldn't even sleep in my bedroom. I brought my mattress up into my den upstairs, and I was sleeping out in the den on what had been a screened-in porch at one time. Mm-hmm. And I remember one morning, I'm out there just crying one night after I put the kids to bed. And I said, God, you got to do something. I'm going to die. I just felt like I was going to explode or implode or something. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you what, the most incredible presence of God came into that place and in that den with me. And I know what it feels like to be held by the Holy Spirit. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. Then the prayer came. Yeah. And I started praying in the Spirit. I don't know how long I prayed in the Spirit. It just seemed like for a few hours. I don't know when it was. I had to go to work the next day. And so, it is 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm praying, and all this is going on and everything. And I might have slept for an hour. I get up, go to work, smile on my face, and God had just healed me from the grief. It was gone. It was completely gone. I can't even explain it to you. I was a different person when after that experience. I had never spoken in public to that until that point. And the church I was going to at that time, Cornerstone Fellowship, a few weeks later, the pastor asked me to speak on a Sunday night, and, and it was just all, and that began a whole new, the point is that even in tragedy, there can be great victory if you just let go and let God. Don't hold on to your little pettiness about God's sovereign. Why my wife died, I still don't have a clue of why that happened. Very difficult for my children, obviously, and yet out of that came a new life, a new thing. And being a male in my world, I think I need another mom. I got 3 kids, and so a year later, I was remarried, actually. Well, a little over a year later, not much more than a year later. Actually, so that was 88, 89, March of 89, I was remarried. And that was July of 88, so less than a year. Yeah. And, God provided. Yeah. So.
Man, I have a lot of follow-up questions, but that would be, we'll probably have another episode to address, to talk about that. But let's go into what we're here for today. And it's let's put this way here: the father absence crisis in America. There's a crisis in America. According to the US Census Bureau, 18.3 million children, that's 1 in 4 children, live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home. Consequently, there's a father factor in nearly all of the societal ills facing America today. And then it gives us some ways that this has affected the kids. Let's look at this one. Who wants to go first? Probably have you go first. Your thoughts on that, and then these statistics that we have. Kids in homes without fathers have 4 times more greater risk of living in poverty. They are 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen, more likely to have behavioral problems, more likely to face abuse and neglect, 2 times greater risk of infant mortality, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol, more likely to go to prison, 2 times more likely to suffer obesity, more likely to commit crime, 2 times more likely to drop out of high school. And there are more statistics that show that kids that grow up in home without fathers are also more likely to commit suicide and some of the other things that we've just... What is your thought on the father crisis in America and these statistics that we've looked at?
The statistics are staggering. But it's not surprising. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but when you grow up without someone who is supposed to love you through anything, it's your father, and they leave, of choice of their own. We're not talking death. We're not talking, that's a blow. And I think it creates a scar that a lot of these kids can't get through. Yeah. And I mean, you can grow up in a perfect home or a home where your father's there, your mother's there, and still you have to battle. It's still, I mean, this world is pretty brutal at times. And when you sit there, but you don't have that father, that person that always has your back, man, it's not surprising. It all looks bad when you, and it's horrible, but it's something that has slowly happened. Yeah. And gets progressively worse year after year.
Yeah. I'm going to take it back to the topic, because the different I should say, categories of fatherhood. It had the biological, the step, adoptive father in the home. So yeah, let's just go back to the top. Like, who is a father? It's a 3-part question. Who is a father? What role does fatherhood play, and how important is that role? I think it was episode 2. We had 2 single moms here, and we talked about parenting from a single mother's perspective. And one of the questions I asked them was, I said, I feel that mothers have a unique role to play in a child's life. Fathers also have a unique role to play in a child's life. So, how do you, as a single mom, make sure that the child does not miss out from that role that the father is supposed to play? So, if you would answer that question, who is a father? What role is a father supposed to play, and how important is the role of fatherhood?
Well, as far as who your father is, we all have a heavenly father. We know that. Yeah. I was raised in a home with my mom and dad both present. They were good people. They didn't raise me in a Christian home necessarily. I was raised in a religious home, I guess you could say, to some degree. Yeah. But in relation to a father's role, I just posted recently on my men's page for the church something that I got from my former pastor, Larry Stockstill, and it talks about fatherhood. Fatherhood is a place where we have an opportunity. The dad is the foundation in the home.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the disciplinarian. Mom is a nurturer. Typically, you go to mom, you get a scraped knee or whatever. Mom's going to have pity. Daddy tell you, suck it up and get over it. Right? and there's a place for both of those things.
Yeah.
You can't have one. There's the balance. That's why God made marriage between a man and a woman. And all the statistics prove, no matter what any social engineering is trying to happen in America today, that the most well-balanced children grow up with a home with a mom and a dad of opposite sex, a male and a female, and bar none. I mean, there's no exception to that rule at all.
Yeah.
And so, the father's role, he's the person that holds you accountable in a family.
Yeah.
It's the old story about, I can't think of the name of the park in Africa. The famous story's been told about. They moved some young bull elephants into this one park, and after a period of 3 or 4 months, lions were being killed, rhinos were being killed, trees were being destroyed. And the park couldn't figure out what was going on. Yeah. And then one sage park ranger said, I know the problem. And they took 3 large male bull elephants from another park, put them into the mix of the young elephants. Within 2 weeks, all that stopped.
Yeah.
Because then the young elephants they were controlled by the bull elephants who knew how to behave and act. So dad in a home teaches his family, teaches his sons, especially and daughters, how to behave. He makes them accountable. It's also, he's the example. You're in an apprenticeship when you're a child. Yeah. It always annoys me when I hear parents today say, well, I just let my kids believe what they want to believe. Well, why are you there? I mean, you're supposed to know as a dad and a mom what your children, you're raising your kids to believe a certain views, certain truths that you hold to be true. And if you don't hold to that, then why are you there? Yeah. So your children get to see you live that out. It's one of the things that Dr. Ed Cole taught us a long time ago about, it's one thing for you to teach your kids how to make decisions, but it's important to let them see you make your decisions. You really can't make their decisions for them once they get to be a certain age. But if they've watched you in an apprenticeship grow and see you make your decisions, then you have a reason that you set an example for them to correct. And another thing we do that is so important, and one of the reasons that we looked at all the terrible statistics we saw, is that these young men and women get no affirmation. When my girls were growing up, I took them out on dates. I showed them a man's supposed to open the door for you. He's supposed to pay for the meal. He's supposed to be kind and pleasant and polite to you and courteous to you. This is how you should be treated by a man. If he's not, then you don't want to be with that man or that boy, whatever that situation might be. And as far as my sons, you respect women. Yeah. They're equal to you. There's nothing a woman can't do that a woman don't want. If she wants to do, she can do. And so all the things. But the most important thing is those positive, affirming words you tell your son. Yeah. Great hit, great grades. That was a good job you did washing the car, son or daughter, whoever it might be. I mean, that's irreplaceable. And even though mom can do that, it's still not the same as it coming from the dad. Yeah. The dad is the line drawer in the sand, saying, this is what this family believes. This is how we walk. This is how we live. This is how we act. This is how we behave. Yeah. If nobody enforces that, then where do they go? They go to gangs where they get that.
Yeah.
They get that from the gang member. They get that total affirmation. They get that acceptance, that unconditional love, which is supposed to be in the home. You always love your kids no matter what they do.
Yeah.
And you always have their back, as Brian said earlier.
Yeah.
That never goes away.
Do you want to add to that?
You can't add to what Alex
it's
says.
hard. It's hard.
I mean,
it's hard to go. I was going to push on this.
I don't know why I'm here. This guy has it. He is amazing.
Hey, look at that statistics. Do you what's your thought on the statistics that we just put on the screen?
Well, it's so easily explainable when that's how important the dads are in the home. So as we were saying earlier before we started the podcast, if the government really wanted to do something, train the dads. And I always tell men in our men's class at our church that stay in the saddle. That's what's wrong is divorce. I mean, divorce is the problem. And you can say all about you can divorce for whatever reason may or may not be correct or whatever. But when you become a divorced dad and you get to see your kids every other weekend or wherever the court has arranged for you, it's not the same thing. It's just you can't do the same job. You're not living and breathing with those kids every day. It just doesn't. It's not as effective. Can it be somewhat effective? Yes, but it's not as effective. So the encouragement is, first of all, in training young men who to marry. Marry somebody you will and live with the rest of your life. I'm not going to cut and run when things get hard. Is marriage difficult? Yes, but is marriage extremely rewarding? Absolutely. Man, I'm a married kind of guy, and I love my wife, and life wouldn't be nearly as fulfilling and pleasant without her.
Yeah.
She adds everything. When God separated Eve from Adam, he took all that feminine stuff, kind of, I guess you could say it that way, put it in Eve. And so when Adam didn't have that anymore, then Adam is incomplete and Eve is incomplete. Yeah. But together, they're complete. And that's what makes it work. It's the perfect marriage. I mean, it's a God thing. Yeah. And if God says this is the way it's supposed to be, and here in Genesis chapter 3, we have God says the reason a man leaves his father and mother to be married to his wife. Yeah. There's a reason for that.
Let's talk about the cycle.
Okay.
Because when I asked you who a father is, people have kids, anyone basically can have a child, But we have, for example, I work with DHS, and you see that people right now that have child welfare issues probably also had the same issue as a child, and their mom was also in the system, and grandma was also in the system. You look at incarcerated parents, for example. Dad was also incarcerated. Grandpa was also incarcerated. You look at substance abuse. Dad abused drug. Grandpa abused drug. So, aside from even having absent parents, you also have fathers that, permit me to use this, that are children.
Yes.
For whatever reason, probably they've not been raised to be fathers. Probably they did not get the discipline to be fathers for whatever reason. How did we get to this place with this fatherhood crisis? Because it's we're looking at the statistics, and it was not this bad in the 70s, not this bad in the 80s. Got a little worse in the 90s, and it's gotten like really, really bad statistics right now. And if you look at the graph, you can predict what would happen in 10, 20, 30, 40 years to come. So how did we get to this point?
The problem is when we take God out of the home, and there's no standard that a male is supposed to follow. Now you have this cycle that okay, this dad leaves, chaos in the home, then this child grows up thinking this is normal.
Yeah.
So then when he repeats this issue, it's normal. It's what they think is normal. And they don't understand that it doesn't have to be that way. After a while, they lose, after that generation and generation and generation, they can't even look back to a grandparent and say, they had a great marriage. You know, they loved one another.
Yeah.
They were stable. They never had to worry about these things.
Yeah.
And so they don't even see it through past generations because it's been so long. So it becomes a generational curse that they just keep repeating. And it really all started with men not staying in the saddle. Because to say that it's easy, it's not easy. When you take two individuals and have them coexist together, they have to compromise for it to work. And they have to be in submission to God. And they have to be, you can do it without it. It ain't easy.
Yeah, but and that's part of my question was, if you look at like your generation and your older guys, with everything, with marriage, with work, hard work there was some pride with hard work.
Respect.
There was some pride with it's not easy. Mm-hmm. Like there was lots of pride with pushing through and making it work with your marriage, with your job and stuff. So how do we get to a point now where it's super easy to quit? And I feel I'm not in your generation, but I feel like back then there probably was some stigma associated with quitting.
Yes, it was.
But now people will tell you, if he's rude to you, just leave. It's quitting right now feels like it's
easier.
Yeah, it's what it should be. You know, that whole thing of fight for your marriage, fight for your dreams, fight for your goals. Looks like we've lost it.
We've ceased to be men.
So how did it just dive down to this place where we are at now?
Well, Brian hit the core thing. It is as America has gotten away from God. You know, I'm a child of the '60s, and we were the hippie generation, and that's where free love started, right? But how many of you know love is not free? And so, and the church bears some responsibility in this, and that they have kind of checked out of social issues, and depending on how you look at that, political or not, in the sense that men realize, back in my time, if a teenage girl got pregnant, that was a shame. Parents sent her off to a place to have the baby and came back, it was hush hush, nobody talked about it. Today, now we have television shows glamorizing teen pregnancy on your television every day. So, as America has moved away from God, and what we've really moved away from is the moral pinning that made it your responsibility as a man to be that man. As you said, to work hard, to push through, to make this marriage work.
Yeah.
Jesus said, if you want to be my disciple, take up your cross and follow me, right? And in a marriage, guess what? You're taking up a cross of responsibility of a relationship. And so, and if a man's not willing to bear that cross, which we all know is uncomfortable at times, difficult at times, then I'm always, we get a chance to counsel blended families occasionally. And I always tell people, divorce always is a result of selfishness on somebody's part. Either male or female, somebody's been extremely selfish. Yeah. There's no 50-50. It's 100% on both sides. And as Brian said earlier, it involves sacrifice. It's not easy. And you have to die to yourself, which men today don't want to do. They don't want to hunker down and do those things. It takes a lot of self-discipline, self-sacrifice, and a belief in your God that ultimately this is what's good for me, for my wife, for my children. Your children are your legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we control everything that happens to our kids or are responsible for every single thing. Even as Ryan said, they're raised in a good family with mom and dad at both homes. Kids can still go awry because we all have the power of choice. That's the only power a man has, the power of choice. You know, any male can have a baby, but only a man can father a child.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
Now, you're male by birth, but you're a man by choice.
Wow. It's I was just looking at some more statistics, and I just read some of them. 43% of US children live without their father. 90% of homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes.
Yep.
80% of rapists motivated with displaced anger come from fatherless homes. 71% of pregnant teenagers lack a father. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 85% of, and these are large numbers, like 90%, 80%, 71%. 85% of children who exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 90% of adolescent repeat arsonists live with only their mother. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 75% of adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions have no father. 85% of youth in prisons grew up in a fatherless home. Fatherless boys and girls are twice as likely to drop out of high school, twice as likely to end up in jail, 4 times more likely to need help for emotional or behavioral problems.
Absolutely. You know, Hallmark did a thing where they offered free Mother's Day cards to prisoners several years ago. And it was a great success. Like 90% of the prisoners took the cards. Says, well, we'll just do that for Father's Day the next month, right?
Yeah.
Not a single prisoner requested a Father's Day card.
Wow.
Complete bust.
I was really thinking about, what you just said. Mother's Day is like a big deal. Like you go to Walmart and there's like Mother's Day section and all that stuff. Father's Day, nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like Walmart, they have like, I get, for Mother's Day, I got like emails from different kind of store, like, Mother's Day gift, don't forget to, do this, do that. I was getting like emails, different promotional emails. I don't think I got anyone for Father's Day.
These stats show why. I mean, it'd be a waste of advertisement. I mean,
it's funny, but that's sad.
It's sad. It truly is, because our kids, our children, I mean, they need us more than ever, and we have to be there. I mean, and the thing of it is I've heard all this from Alan before, because I've sat through his classes. Yeah. I've sat through, and so everything he says is just an echo.
Yeah,
because I've heard it before, and it's it's so sad.
Yeah.
But people like Alan are what make me go, I can do this. I can fix this. And I need to stay in the saddle.
Yeah.
Because I don't want my kids being in these statistics. I don't want my grandchildren, because I love them. And I don't want to see them become a part of this. And that's not saying that it's a guarantee that they won't. But if I can give them a fighting chance, because, oh my gosh, you talk about loving your kids, then the grandkid comes along, oh my Lord, it gets amazing.
Yeah. Let me, we already talked about the fact that a major factor for this is that God was taken out. But aside from that, I want to ask, What fundamentally roles or structure do you think that, where do you think that we missed it? Whether probably roles or structures that probably should have been instituted that were not, or that probably was instituted but was maybe stopped, or like is there, and it could be from the top, or it could be, family structure. Is it one big one that comes to my mind is discipline? So are there rules or structures that you probably think over time got watered down that led us to where we are at now?
Yeah. 1963, we take prayer out of schools. So no acknowledgement of God from 1963. And look how long that took to today, to where now we have pretty much God completely out of school. Kids have to fight for the right to, as valedictorians, to mention their faith in Christ without being censored in some way. Social media censoring all of that now. And then we have Roe versus Wade. So here now we're saying, okay, human lives are not valuable. So if you're going to say human life's not valuable, why bother with your kids? You're on your own. I got things to do. I got pleasures to seek. I have to fulfill myself instead of being worried about you or your mama, right? So when you take that slowly eroding of those social or moral values away from America, then we have what we have in 2021, just an absolute mess for the most part. I think those things have helped or have slowly shaped and as the government has gone away from its moral moorings and the different presidents we have like right now. It's tough.
I talked about this with my wife, and it's shocked what you mentioned about taking prayers and Bibles out of school. America was, I would say, the capital of Christianity for the world. Took the gospel to other nations of the world, gave Bibles to. How did America get to the place where prayers were taken out of schools? Like it's hard. We were talking, and I asked her, I was like, would you ever have believed that prayers would be taken out of schools? And it has gotten worse than that over time. How did America get to that point? From the point of taking the gospel to other nations of the world, to the point where now in our own nation, we are going to take the gospel out of our own schools and out of our own.
When your dad leaves, you can say all you want. You blame God. You don't want nothing to do with him. You know what I mean? So just the very thought that this God could let this happen, it angers you at him.
Yeah.
And that's a tough spot, because they have to realize that he's given us free will. Yeah. He's a gentleman. He wants us to want him. He don't want to. If you don't want to be there, he's not. So it's, you sit there and now you've got them blaming God, and so there's an agenda that they want him out of there.
Yeah.
They want him out because you can look. They don't try to push any other religion out.
Yeah.
It's only Christianity. That's because there's a standard. And please don't think that I'm sitting there going, I've got it figured. No, I'm a human that is flawed. Yeah. And if it wasn't for the grace of my God.
The only one person that has got it here is Alan, I guess.
The standard.
Yeah, Alan is the only person that has got it here.
And it's crazy because I sit there and I've got a good father. Yeah. I mean, I've got a great dad. I've got I had a great mother. I have a stepmom that nurtures me like she was my mother. And I still, you take guys like Alan. I mean, my dad always thought that there ain't a guy stronger, tougher, Dad's Superman. Yeah. Well, Alan, in Christian terms, is that to me. He is, if I'm dealing with something or if I'm struggling with something and I need to go to somebody, I'll go to my dad, but I'm gonna check on old Alan too, because he's honest with me. If I've got something that he's like, you need to fix that, because he loves me.
Yeah. We used to have 10 Commandments on the wall. You talk about Old Testament stuff. Just think how far that would go today if kids saw that every day. They used to, I didn't realize this because we didn't have this in my school. We had prayer. We had Pledge of Allegiance and had prayer. But I guess there were certain school systems that I understand now that prayed or wrote prayer about blessing our country, blessing our president, blessing our governors. They used to pray that, corporate prayer.
Yep.
Pray that for the whole country. No more.
It's all gone.
It's all gone. And part of it, the flip side of, what Brian said is absolutely true. The flip side of that, though, the reason where we are where is that good men didn't take up their responship to fulfill roles of leadership.
Weak back.
In the government, in school, on the school boards, and judgeships, mayorships, governorships, all these.
And I think somewhere in Proverbs, it says the people suffer when good men don't lead.
Exactly right.
I can't remember where it's in and that's one of my favorite verses. The Christians should not be involved in politics. I'm like, no. Christians should be in politics. Should be, because it's clear the people suffer when good people take the back seat.
Yeah. But Thomas Jefferson wrote a Constitution. He said, this government is for holy, moral people. Mm-hmm. And if those people are not moral, USA Today, it won't work. That's why people are using these our very freedoms that we fought and bled and died for against us. Yeah. And because you are free to do what you want to do in America. You're free to have a weapon, and people are shooting people like crazy.
Yeah. The gun violence has, in the last probably 1 month, there probably been about 10.
Yeah. Well, if you don't,
of even more shootings.
Yeah, if you don't value human life.
Yeah.
On this, it has a biological step, adoptive father. Are there things that, as individuals, that good? I know the church does a lot, but and you're an example of Kiro that I'm pretty sure, aside from Brian, aside from myself, there are lots of people that would say the same thing that he said about you and how much you've helped. But what can be done? And not even from the bigger picture. I don't want to be like, what can the government do, or what can I don't even want to go there. But probably someone is watching and they're like, what are there ideas or roles that people can play to help address the fatherhood crisis?
What Alan does. I'm here to tell you. Here's the thing. Alan pours into young men. He mentors. He teaches. And he passed that to me. And just as this, where we've taken God out, and it's slowly eroded. Yeah. If we can start by, he pours into me, I pour into someone else. And we keep on. Now, the thing of it is Alan's poured into a multitude of souls. Yeah. Now, if I can do that, and everyone else that he's taught can do that, this can be fixed because that's where it's at. Yeah. I've got to, as my son, raise my son up and his buddies. If they're ever struggling, I try to be something for them. That's not a. I never wanted my son or my daughter's friends, I didn't care if they thought that I was the coolest guy around. I mean, I wanted them to like me, but I always wanted them to know that there was someone they could count on. And that's what, I didn't just stay closed in with my with my faith. You know what I mean? And my belief in God. I have to let that shine, because light that is hidden might as well be darkness.
You know, Paul was writing, and Paul said, the things that you've heard me say and that you've been taught, said, commit also to faithful men that will also be able to pass it on to faithful. And I think most times, keeping our mouth shut or minding our business can be a big problem. And I feel like that's exactly what you're saying, you know, to be able to pass it on. Because even Alan that we're talking about, I'm pretty sure you have a mentor. You probably had someone that poured into you.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and so for most people, it just dies with you.
Right.
You know.
Well, we had, like when I first walked into Alan's class, what was it, 10, 12 years ago?
At least.
Okay. and we're sitting there, and I'm struggling. You know, I mean, and we were going to church, and I was a good church. And I was sitting there, but I was starving spiritually. And I come in, and there's a group of men in there, and they're all talking about things that they struggle with. And Alan's just, you know, he's teaching this Faithful Men's curriculum, and I sit there and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Well, then we start discussing.
Yeah.
And you know, I always had this, well, if this was different, I would have done this better. Yeah. Or if this was, I always had my cop-out excuse. Yeah. But then what was crazy is there were so many men in that class that were from different walks of life and different status and different, and they all struggled with the same things that I struggled with. Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's not me. It's not me. I'm not unique, and the devil tries to get me. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I sit there and I think, okay, I can do better. And don't tell me I'm doing wrong. Tell me how to fix it. Yeah. Help me fix it. You know, and that's what that did, was it quit sitting there telling me how wrong I was. Yeah. And it loved me, and it corrected me, and it helped me fix issues that I was dealing with. Yeah. And not to say that I don't still have issues and struggles that I deal with. Yeah. But I can always go back to that and fix things.
Yeah. Just with what he ended with, how can we fix it?
How can we fix it? You know, it's really funny. There's a lot of things going on today. You know, we're doing a third Faithful Man's class right now in our church, and it started off with like 50-something guys. Actually, 5 guys completed it.
Well, I started that, the Maximizing Man. I started that. I didn't finish it.
Yep. Okay. Ooh. So when I read Maximize Manhood, I was close to Brian's age, and you know, I was a Christian and newly, you know, married for, I think we had 3 kids.
He's fairly young.
Had 3 kids. Yeah. Had 3 kids at the time. And I thought I was doing a pretty good job. And I read that book, and I remember calling my wife on the phone apologizing to her, saying, I am so sorry. I've got this all wrong. Yeah. I've had it wrong. You know, it's all about me. And it just completely radically. Yeah. I said, when I come home, because I was away on assignment. So when I come home, I said, you're going to have a new husband. And, you know, listening to Dr. Cole and reading that book, that radically transformed my life. So, you know, the situation today is like, you know, I recognized, you know, Brian's spiritual bent and his talent to teach and everything early on, and he really has picked up on it, and just, you know, my goal is he does way more than I ever thought about doing, but you know, it could take a new generation to figure out how to impact these newer, younger men. You know, what I was doing worked for a long time, but, you know, because of my recent experience, thinking, well, how come these guys didn't want to stay in the saddle? How come they want to stay in the course? You know, it takes some effort. You got to read the books, got to do the workbooks, but you know, the answers are provided. So it's not like you got to work hard to do it. So I find, there again, we have men being selfish who think about just themselves. Well, I don't want to spend the time to do that. Yeah. So the question is, we know how to fix the problem. The question is how to get these young men to be involved. What's the new method to draw these younger millennial generations into the understanding of what truth really is or why truth matters? Yeah. You can say all kinds of things, but what is truth? Like Pilate, what is truth? And truth is standing in front of him, right? Truth is a real person. Truth has a name. Truth died on the cross. Truth rose again. Truth lives today. Yeah. But it takes men who have to seek that truth, to seek the Lord, to really have that transformation in a heart that you become a lover of truth. Proverbs says the Bible says that our minds taste truth like your tongue tastes good food. That so if you're a spiritually bent person and you hear the truths of the gospel, it's appetizing to you. It's desirable. You want more. So until you can create that appetite in a young man's mind and heart or a husband's heart to pursue those things, then you're back to square one. I mean, you can tell him, but if you don't listen or if you don't desire it, then what's the use? We do have a free will, as Brian said, to choose to do what we want to do. So the key for me today is, what's the new hook for this new generation to get them to desire to hear these truths? Truth, because truth's unchangeable. It never changes. It's always the same. It's always been wrong to murder. It's always been wrong to steal. It's always been wrong to gossip. Those just the 10 Commandments. Jesus said you only got to fulfill 2 now. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. That fulfills all the 10 Commandments, actually, if you can do those things. So, what's the hook to bring these young men to really hunkering down, to pursue, have an appetite for that truth that will radically change their lives, their marriages, and their legacy? That's the key.
And the reason is, if I sit and act as though I'm perfect, and I sit there and I look down at you, I'm not going to gain them, because they're going to see through that, because I'm not perfect. And once they see that, they go, but if I'm honest with them and I truly love them, and they see that, then they start hungering for that. And when they need me, I'm there. You know what I mean? I can't be, I'm only one person. So I and I'm only capable of so much, but through God, when something happens, hey, we had a flat. Is there any way you can come help us? I'll be there. Anytime Alan's ever needed me, I'm there. People in our church, if they need me, I try my dead level best, to be there, because that's what it is. It's fulfilling a need. And when people see that, because I can tell you I love you all day long. If I don't show you, you ain't going to buy. That's simple.
But, and we talked about fathers being an affirming force in the home. Really, fathers who affirm their children, those children they grow up believing they can change the world. You can do this. I'm here for you. I got your back. You can do this. You have the ability. You don't see it in yourself, but me as your dad, and because you built that respect from your children, then they believe you. And they can do it. Absolutely. We can change the world by fathers who will be an affirming force in the home and not just leave their kids to the whims of society and the neighborhood.
Man, I feel like this is one of the best conversations I've had on the podcast, and maybe because he was talking to me directly, I guess.
All of us.
Yeah, but I'm just thankful for the both of you, Brian and Alan, and I'm also thankful that you made our time to come on the podcast, sit with me, and talk.
Our pleasure.
I just want to say this: if there is anyone that gets to watch this podcast and you're probably struggling with something and you feel like you want to talk, maybe not to me, I don't know, but to Brian, but to Brian or to Alan, you can send us a message. We're on Facebook, on YouTube, on the Grow podcast. Send me a message, and I'm pretty sure I can get that across to Alan, and he would be willing to help or Brian in any ways that they want to. Alan, if you're in Tahlequah, Alan still teaches a men's class. I think it's every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you feel like you want to be a part of that, that's something that you I feel like that's something that everybody should be a part of. I'll probably have to work on my Sunday schedule with the media. Yeah, with the media, it kind of got hard for me because it's at the same time.
I've been thinking about doing something on Monday nights or something different.
That would be perfect.
That would make me come.
Yeah, because with Sundays, that's the same time where I'm also on the media trying to. So, but I feel like it's a class that anyone that is serious about their manhood and fatherhood should be a part of. And if you want to know more about it, if that's something you're interested in, if you just need some kind of support, if you need prayers, please reach out to us on the Grow Podcast on Facebook, on YouTube. Our links would be down on this video, and we'll link you up to appropriate resources. Don't forget also to like, subscribe, follow us on all our platforms on Spotify. We're also on Spotify. And thank you guys for all your support. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Brian. Any last word to your fans? Do you have any last words? Anything you want to say?
No, I mean, it's awesome that you feel that way, because that shows that it's working.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Alan for all he's done.
Yeah,
I mean, when you watch what's happened in Alan's life, and then he had the point in his life to where he felt like God had to carry him for every step.
And that's why I had him share that story. Because most times people will just think, oh yeah, he's probably had on his life all perfect.
It's been cake.
And that's why it's easy. I mean, why won't he teach a men's class when he's had everything just working for him? This man has been through stuff.
He's been through it. But then the faithfulness of God turned around and led him to Cheryl.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who, oh my God.
Yeah.
Is
shout out Cheryl.
That is the hostess. She is
hostess,
amazing. Yeah, she will definitely, and she's from good stock.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And turns around, and Alan's life is now complete again, and he's blessed.
Yeah.
And you watch God work and carried him through that and get him there, and then he can now pour that out into guys like me, guys like you, and it's beautiful.
I just want to say manhood and Christ-likeness are synonymous. You want to be a man, be Christ-like.
Yep.
Well,
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Alan. Guys, thank you, guys. We have come again to the end of another episode, and I'm 100% sure you guys learned a lot from this. I did, and I'm just thankful again to the both of you for this time. We'll see you guys on another episode of the Grow Podcast. Don't forget, please like, subscribe. If you have questions, if you just something you want to know, if you want to contact any of these two wonderful men, just let us know. Post your questions down in the comment, and I will definitely get back to you guys. I'll see you on our next episode. Have a good Father's Day. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Cool. Very cool, brother. Very cool.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
I didn't know you were doing this. That's great.